with a $25,000 match. That money can be used to address the fine as we identified in our proposal. Basically do the preliminary engineering, the inventory and analysis piece, the survey work, all the advanced planning work that you would need to do to undertake any one of the projects that are identified in the engineer's report. We've listed those on page 2 of our proposal. That might include survey of the infrastructure, smoke testing, flow testing, all the things that go into helping understand what the potential problems are and the potential fix is. The CFA process, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it was several years ago the governor consolidated these funding programs and tried to identify a single application process. Those applications are due the end of this month. This particular program is not a particularly challenging application. It's pretty straightforward information. We think you have a very good application here because the CFA process is organized under the strategic plan of the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council. And one of their key strategic initiatives is revitalization of cities and investing in infrastructure, smart growth practices that we've all heard about over a number of years. And so given the number of improvements that you need to undertake, this program fits this particular problem very nicely. Ideally, what comes out of this is a long-term program to address system deficiencies that you have. And what it also does is that once the DEC funds a project like this, they like to see their projects get constructed and completed. And so it would put you in a good spot for subsequent funding, so capital project funding. The EFC also announced, not on the same deadline, but a similar program. It's called, it's a $50 million infrastructure program that they're splitting. It's actually $200 million over 3 years, $50 million this year, $30 million split between for water and $20 million for wastewater, or vice versa. And with that, one of the preliminary things you need is an engineer's report. You need to demonstrate project readiness. And I have prepared for you, if you'd like to see it, I can leave it with the city manager, just a listing of other potential funding sources for infrastructure needs that, once this first program is set up, that you would then be eligible for. So there's 4 or 5 programs here. The funding amounts change each year, but the idea is you need to demonstrate project readiness and a commitment to moving forward with the project.
So did you say that you had already started or done some work on this study?
Yeah, so in 2014, we produced a document, and that was a document on behalf of public the city manager to address the U.S. EPA inspection that was performed that identified sewer overflows, whether it was a pump station that wasn't functioning properly, or whether it was a release of sewage into stormwater system, etc. So the EPA identified a series of those issues, and we've done basically a cursory level investigation and say here's the fixes. And actually, the city's addressed a number of those deficiencies already.
Could we just get a copy of that, Richard?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Richard, they have an existing agreement with the city that would cover this?
We have it existing for other projects. We had to see if it would cover this grant application. It would be $2,000. So we can check on that.
Now, one of the things we've talked about for years is our aging infrastructure. We were just talking about the sewage and the I&I downtown that causes that terrible smell on the corner of Main. Is that one of the places that was identified, or is that?
I am not intimately familiar with the report. I'm standing in for George.
Okay.
I do know one of the key programs was this consolidation of 2 of the pumping stations.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are either at capacity, and one actually pumps to the second, and they are along the waterfront.
Right, and that's down, and I think that needs to be done for future development, but we're having some problems in the downtown, and I think also on the corner of Constant and North Division that affects current residents and current businesses. So, if you can, Joe, you probably know,
I can tell
something about that.
on the corner. We have two sewer leaks that we've found in the past month that we fixed.
Okay.
We were directly contributing to the issues in the downtown.
In the downtown?
Yes,
Okay.
Was it smell horrible today, yesterday, this week?
hasn't been fixed out there.
Come up.
Yeah, that
So there's probably more. That's what-
We kind of break on North King Street about a week ago or so.
Uh-huh.
Because that house is what was distributed to the downtown, it was going to get it into the storm line and heading downtown. That, we secured that, that's good.
Okay, so then she's saying that it was still, Councilwoman McKenzie said last night it was still
We're,
pretty bad.
In fact, today, as I was walking from Pugsley, still on the corner,
I'll just
on the-
walk over and mark.
on the corner of Main and North Division.
But you can smell,
You can smell
it all the way down that street.
So I guess the thing
Not
is,
feeling.
it's definitely a problem. We definitely need to fix it, and we definitely don't have the money. So to do a study that would allow us then to go out and get money sounds like a no-brainer to me, so.
This is just a grant application.
Yeah, this would be $2,000 go towards the grant application to the CFA to try to get them to fund the engineering study so that they can fund the actual work.
And the $2,000 is refundable back.
Right, if you're awarded that and we're engaged to do the work, we credit it back to you.
So it's not a study, it's to do the application. To get the money to do the.
Correct, $2,000 is to do the application.
To get 100 to 125.
Correct.
No,
With
we did part of the study
20%,
last year.
with a 20% matching.
Yeah, we would still have to do 25,000 for the match.
If
Well,
we're awarded
depends
the
on
grant.
what we get.
Now, how do we handle that with the budget, though? So if we don't get if the application process goes through and we don't get the money until next year, do we budget in this upcoming budget the $25,000 match?
Well,
Because
do we know when the results would be announced?
It shifts, typically we see them in November, but they're often timed around key political events.
Right?
There's no
I guess
order,
the good part
there's
is-
no order of consent currently.
what'd you say? Then?
No, New York
No order
State
to
DEC order consent, there's a US EPA administrative order.
Administrative order, right, which would kind of require us to take protective action against
Right.
this type of stuff.
One of the reasons is, that you should consider pursuing this is that it demonstrates to the EPA that you're being proactive
We have
about
a
trying to identify these fixes.
Right, we have a
And,
plan.
that you're trying to address these environmental issues.
Well, we all know that the infrastructure, especially in the stormwater system, is aging, so.
I mean, the current EPA order requires you to take reasonable actions within reasonable times. It doesn't have sanctions attached, so
Right.
it's preliminary to that. So you haven't taken a lot of actions, this is just another step. And if there's funding available on the state level, the idea is to try to take advantage.
So for the grant application for the $2,000, and if it's refundable back into the project, if in fact Chazen is still under contract with us, it makes sense to do.
Yeah, I'm always leery of when we get a grant, it's good news, yay, we got a grant. And then they say, but you gotta come up with the, $50,000, $75,000 match, which sometimes we don't have. And then we're kind of scratching to try to figure out that part of it.
This is a $20,000 to $25,000 cost to the city.
Correct.
If awarded.
Correct.
So we can take that into consideration during budget process.
You would book that revenue, potential revenue, and also book that expense in your budget year.
But it would be under water and sewer, not in the general fund, so.
Yeah, and go to the water and sewer fund.
Nice.
Okay, thank you. We'll do a resolution on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Number 2.
Okay, the next item is an application for a special event, music festival on July 25th. And the reason this is before you this evening is because there's a request for a street closing. And it's outlined in the